we had a bunch of different stuff going on, but I think Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens, where $9 million is guaranteed this year, is the perfect jumping off point. It's the perfect jumping off point where Derrick Henry has been a great player in this league. Right? A great player in this league. Not good, great. He has been a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's led the league in rushing 2 different times. Both those years he led the league in touchdowns as well. And he's a lot more of a throwback, right, in terms of what he's been able to do and how he's been able to do it. He's not a huge catch out of the backfield guy. He is a franchise running back who's carried the ball over 2,000 times. 2,000 times. He's had 1,000 yards rushing 5 times. Obviously, he had a 2,000-yard season go back to 2020, and now he's a member of the Baltimore Ravens. And it's interesting, right? Like, if you were to ask, how old do you think Derrick Henry is? Like, where is he? What do you think people's answer would be? You know, I'd actually be kind of interested to hear how old. He's at 30 years old, and running backs, much like tennis players, 30 is usually the cliff that they fall off of, right? 30 is the cliff that they fall off of. And he's going to get $9 million. Short-term deal, try and get all the juice out of that orange. But we told you yesterday, we actually told you leading up to it all season long what was coming. And this is what was coming. You know, people, they always think that the answer is always going to be a total at the very, very peak or even higher. And that stands to reason. That's what's happened in so many other sports, at so many other positions, even in football, where, hey, whatever a guy made last year to be the best or one of the best at his jobs, this next guy next year is going to make more because everything's going up. And the only place this is not happening is the running back position. Now, it's not really true. I mean, what's happened in the NBA with the evolution of the game is those kind of traditional centers, they've gone the way. The Roy Hibberts of the world, like he's the last of the traditional center, got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then all of a sudden the game changed and he was no longer useful. You know, in college basketball, you watch Zach Edey play, who's a giant of a man at 7'3", and you're like, well, he's got to be a top 10 pick. Like, do I think he makes the NBA? Yes. Does he play a prominent role in the NBA? Likely not. Likely not. So we've seen it in basketball. In baseball, you've seen it too, right? Like, now the game is evolving even more. It went from a game where you didn't really need to be great defensively, just need to be really good at getting on base and, you know, be an efficient hitter. And, oh, yeah, by the way, strikeouts didn't matter previously at all. Now by doing away with the shift, they brought back in defense. But if you go back and you remember, like, the Ozzie Smiths of the world, Ozzie Smith, for my lifetime, was like the greatest second baseman I'd ever seen. I remember second baseman, sorry, shortstop I've ever seen. You remember Ozzie Smith used to do this thing opening day every year. He'd do a somersault into a flip, right? And he just played the game with great joy. But he would hit like 3 home runs. And he was a punch-and-Judy guy. Those services were no longer needed in Major League Baseball. They just weren't. You know, they just weren't. Now, it'll be interesting to see with speed coming back into the game, how much overall power and those dynamics play a factor. But you used to be able to get away with having a shortstop who was just unbelievable in the field and average to below average hitter who could get on base and steal a base every now and again. It's actually happened in other sports. It just doesn't feel like it has because, well, teams used to be built around their running backs. I guess baseball teams used to be built around their shortstops regardless of their amount of power. But it feels like in a sport where everything else is exploding in their values, running backs are not. And this is the problem with free market. This is the problem with the salary cap. This is the problem with the franchise tag and how it's perceived. You get people that say franchise tag. You mean to tell me Derrick Henry wouldn't kill to be on the franchise tag? Franchise tag this year in the NFL is like $13 million, almost $14 million. And what's happened is all those running backs hopped on the phone and said, to hell with the franchise tag. We want free market. Congratulations, you got it. Well, franchise tag's only 1 year. Well, it's fully guaranteed. And by the way, look at this deal for Derrick Henry. Its first year is fully guaranteed at $9 million. Right? The salary cap. People, the salary cap. It's what people forget. If you don't have a salary cap, it's not the ceiling, it's the floor that's the problem. They don't have to pay anybody anything. And that's what happened last time they didn't have a salary cap. And in terms of free market, be careful what you wish for. Because the NFL has had a market flooded with running backs. Different types, different ages, different parts of their career. And, look, Aaron Jones didn't want to take less money. Now he's out in the free market. We'll see what he's able to get. They got Josh Jacobs for less money, and Josh Jacobs is 3 years younger. But it wasn't like Josh Jacobs got more money than you get in the franchise tag, which he bitterly fought against. So the perception is that the NFL wanted to hold back these running backs. The perception is that the franchise tag is some evil, nefarious thing. The perception is that free market will only make the top of the market grow. The reality is the franchise tag is actually a lot more money than they can make on the open market. The franchise tag also does hurt the teams because it counts dollar for dollar on the cap, whereas when they sign you to a 2 or 3 year deal, they can move some of that cap money around. The reality is that the salary cap itself really helps the bottom of the league more so than worrying about the top of the league. It never happened. People did not get just crazy paid when the salary cap went away. And the reality of true free market system is, there's no net. And you may think you're going to make more than ever, but that's not always the way it works. And if anybody says we haven't seen this in sports before, we have. Traditional power forwards, traditional centers in basketball, hitters, great fielders in baseball with no power, and, of course, in the NFL with running backs. That's what happens. Now, do I think that the Ravens made a good acquisition? I think he's good. I'm a little concerned because he doesn't catch it out of the backfield, and he's super traditional, and it does feel like he's a guy that takes 20 carries, 30 carries to get going. And while everyone wants to make Lamar Jackson into a drop-back thrower and to take some of the running away to keep him healthier, the fact is he's the greatest running quarterback we've ever seen. I wouldn't take away that fastball. I might do it a little less often, but I wouldn't take away that fastball, and I don't know if this works with it. It feels like the Ravens are a little bit of jumbled parts there. And last year they gave him OBJ, and it worked out to some success, limited success. This year they give him Derrick Henry, and I feel like it's going to be the same.